Believe it or not, we are now halfway through the NFL season. It feels like it just started a couple weeks ago, so that's just crazy. And I'd say it's been a pretty good season so far. Not great. I'm definitely looking forward to and hoping for some bigger and better games. And we did have some of those marquee matchups this week, week 9, that we'll be getting into and breaking down, while also looking ahead toward week 10, making our predictions, our best bets, and all that good stuff. Now, off the bat here, I do want to say I am missing my illustrious co-host, Jake. He's feeling a little under the weather today, so he couldn't make it in, but all good. I'm going to miss him, but as they say, the show must go on. He did submit his picks for this upcoming week, so you still will be able to hear his perspective on the games. But yeah, going to be a shorter show. Still going to be a good time, though. Let's get into it. So week 9 assessment, Jake went 9-5, bringing his total on the year to 79-57. I went 10-4, bringing mine to 85-51. We both got the Thursday night game correct, picking Pittsburgh. Pretty easy pick here. It was a rather uneventful game, I'd say. Will Levis played okay, but I wouldn't say he's the second coming of Jesus Christ like a lot of people are putting him up to be. I mean, he did throw the game-sealing interception there at the end, but, on the flip side of that, he was the one that got them down within the red zone. And on the flip side of that as well, you have Kenny Pickett, who, man, he is just such a weird player right now. I watched a good majority of this game, and I watched him miss a good majority of his throws. There was one, and of course we had that parlay going with George Pickens, and he just completely cannoned the throw. He's throwing it way too hard, no touch, completely missing George Pickens. Pickens ends up with -2 yards receiving on the night, completely screwing that parlay, by the way. But still, we do have a winning record. We're still profitable, so don't worry. And yeah, we didn't even want to bet on this game. This is such a raccoon game, as we like to say, but that pretty much is what primetime has become in this season of the NFL. But yeah, I mean, Kenny Pickett, he seems to be better late. He definitely settles down, because I remember, I think in the Jacksonville game, his first throw overthrown. So it seems like he's got those early game jitters. And I'm still, though, not completely sold on him, even if he has a few of these fourth quarter, game sealing drives or wins or whatever it may be. And yeah, I mean, Tennessee looks better with Will Levis, but I really don't think he is much better than Ryan Tannehill right now. I think Ryan Tannehill is getting too much slander, and I would have liked to seen him gone to Minnesota instead of Josh Dobbs. I think he would do really well there. But I mean, Josh Dobbs, obviously, we'll get to him in a bit here as well. Next up, we have the Germany game, Miami and Kansas City. Now, I stupidly picked Miami, even though I was literally the one to say Miami has not beaten a team over 500 in over 400 days. That's absurd. And I know I was like, all right, it's got to break through eventually. Nope, Kansas City still wins. Although, clearly, there is some oddities about this game. Miami gets shut out in the first half. Kansas City gets shut out in the second half. Miami has a bit of a comeback, and they just can't get it done. I saw Tua also, like I said with Kenny Pickett, I saw Tua miss some throws in this game. There was one, a third down, I believe it was, toward the end of the game. He just completely floats this ball into the clouds. I have no idea where he was going with it, completely overthrown. And then there was another one where, kind of like Kenny Pickett, he just absolutely rockets the ball to Tyreek Hill, no touch on it, and just completely uncatchable. So yeah, I mean, Kansas City's defense is good, but Miami had a lot of opportunities to win this game. All things considered, their defense isn't great, but they held Kansas City to 21 points and shut them out in the second half. Miami really should have won this game. You got to take advantage as well when you're not playing in Arrowhead, Kansas City Stadium. You had this game, in Germany, kind of a weird game. But yeah, I guess it's fun. I love, expanding the sport and all that stuff. People are getting upset about, the game being on so early. I've seen some people saying, you got to play our sport, the American sport, then you better play it at our time and not over there. And they could do that. If they played it a little later in the day, it would be a night game in Germany, or I mean, more so in London. I mean, Germany's even farther ahead. So you'd have to probably play it around 9 to 10 for it to be a night game. Not really sure on the time difference there. But for me, I'm totally cool with it. And honestly, I'm disappointed that they're not playing in El Estadio Azteca this year down in Mexico City like they have the last couple years. I think it's because of renovations on the stadium, but hopefully we can get back to that. I'd love to see, more countries feature NFL games. So yeah, Jake got that game right. I did not, like we talked about. Now, this next game we both got wrong. We both picked Atlanta, which definitely was the logical, safe pick. And to be completely frank, if Jaren Hall, who I kept calling like Jaren Warren in the last episode, I apologize about that. It's Jaren Hall out of BYU, rookie quarterback. If he doesn't get injured, the Falcons win this game. As crazy as it sounds, I was watching some of this game, and there were multiple instances where the Falcons had opportunities to put this game away. I mean, they were in control of it. They could have just kept on stacking on points, but they didn't. Lots of field goals, lots of punts. Taylor Heineke, I think, threw an interception. So it wasn't great. I think it's Tyler Taylor Heineke. I like him a lot. I started him in 2 of my fantasy leagues this year because I know he has the ability to run, and he played quite well against Tennessee after Desmond Ridder was benched last week. Then Josh Dobbs comes in and just goes absolutely superhuman. I mean, I already respected this guy, but the fact that he comes in after being there for only a handful of days, like since Tuesday, and lights up a good Falcons defense through the air, on the ground, 3 total touchdowns. This game reminds me of several years ago. I think it was 2020, the Bears at the Falcons. Mitch Trubisky plays bad, throws a pick. They bring in Nick Foles, and the Bears are losing by like 20 points. And Nick Foles comes in the third quarter, toward the end of it, throws 3 touchdown passes and brings them back to win the game. That's when Atlanta was considered, the choke artist. They choked off like a 21-point lead to Dallas that year. I think they had a few others similar to that. And this reminds me of that. It's like a backup quarterback comes in, goes off for 3 touchdowns and leads a big comeback. Super impressive. Craziness. I love Josh Dobbs. I mean, he's a great guy, great story and all that. So good for Minnesota. They're technically in the playoffs right now, but what a blown opportunity for Atlanta. You're coming into this game. I know you benched Desmond Ridder, so I think you have a better quarterback now. You're going up against a rookie quarterback making his first start. He goes out. Now you have a guy who doesn't even know the offense. He's been there for a couple of days, and you lose. Like, this was a lock of mine for the week. If I was in the survivor pool, I would be inclined to take this game. So at the end of the day, Atlanta, super disappointing this year. I think somebody has to go, whether it be Arthur Smith. And yeah, they need a new quarterback. I mean, I like Heineke, but he's not the answer. So interesting game there. We both got that one wrong. Now, Chicago at New Orleans was interesting for a couple quarters. Tyson Bagent was exciting, fun to watch. Couple touchdowns, a lot of rushing yards, lots of interceptions. He's honestly not that much different than Justin Fields. Excuse me. His style of play and his productivity and the mistakes he makes is not all that different. It's kind of nuts. I mean, he was throwing the ball all over the yard, throwing for over 10 yards a clip at one point. But obviously, I knew it would happen. New Orleans they kept up and eventually outlasted the Bears. They did keep this like a 1-possession game, covered the spread. But yeah, I mean, New Orleans is just the better team at the end of the day. They have a great defense. And yeah, I mean, good win for them. Of course, the Bears, I guess you could have said, had an opportunity here to win this game, but I don't think anyone really believed that they were going to. So we both got that one right. Then the Rams at Green Bay. Of course, Matt Stafford not starting. He was kind of questionable throughout the week. So I really was like, I don't know what to think of this game. I kept in my bet, of course, the Rams +3. Really should have gotten rid of that. Matt Stafford, it was pretty obvious he wasn't going to play, but they kept, the line open. So you have Brett Rippon in there, who's just, he's been capable. I think he played a game against the Jets a few years ago as a Bronco. Played decent in that game. Nope, not here. 1 reception or something. Like, he had a 34-yard completion to Cooper Kupp, which was the majority of his yards. So it was just bad. Pretty sure the Rams just signed Carson Wentz. So yeah, he'll definitely be a better backup quarterback. He's like borderline starter. So I think that's good for them. Although I really hope Matt Stafford comes back. Jordan Love had a pretty clean game, nothing too special. It should be an easy win. You're playing at home against a backup quarterback, and at that, already a bad Rams team. So they took advantage, they took care of business, whereas the Falcons didn't. I mean, the Falcons had a very similar opportunity that they didn't capitalize on. Washington at New England. Jake and I both picked New England. My rationale there was Bill Belichick just eats. He feasts upon new quarterbacks, except for Tua. Everyone struggled. Like Justin Herbert, he's going nuts his rookie year, blah, blah, blah. Goes up to New England, just gets stomped. I remember they had like those cool dark blue jerseys on that day. Just gets stomped. And I mean, he's eaten up. He ate up Josh Allen for those first couple years. He just has Zach Wilson for dessert. I mean, let me think. Who else has he just gone absolutely bonkers on? I think Lamar Jackson's kind of taking care of business. Joe Burrow played him last year when it was, he was already pretty established. Anyways, Sam Howell went off for a whole ton of yards, I'll tell you that, through a pick. But, ultimately, it was enough to win the game. New England had opportunities here. They had an opportunity at the end. Mac Jones throws a game-sealing interception. Highly disappointing for me because I actually had a bet on Prize Picks that he would go over 221.5 yards. He finished with 220. So screw you, Mac Jones. Like, come on, dude. Washington secondary's not good. They just traded away like their entire defensive front seven. Like, dude, what are you doing? Mac Jones needs to go. Like, he's the man. Yeah, he was the man at Alabama. He beat the brakes off Notre Dame in the playoff game. But no, he is not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry. Like, he has had good games. He played well against Buffalo. But, like, he just ain't it. Like, this is a game you got to win. You're at home again against a not great Washington team, going against a younger, more inexperienced quarterback than you, and he outplays you tenfold. So that's my thoughts on that game. Disappointing for sure for New England. Now, Seattle at Baltimore. This one, in my opinion, was a super easy pick, although a lot of people like Seattle in this game. Lamar Jackson, like we talked about when he played Detroit, he just rolls NFC teams. He's only lost one game in his entire career to an NFC team, and I believe it was the Vikings last year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was, because that's when the Vikings just, won everything that was remotely close last year. Other than that, he's undefeated, so I knew he would roll them. And it makes Detroit's loss when they got rolled by Baltimore a little bit better. It's like, hey, dude, like, us too, man. Like, that just, it's a tough place to play and a tough quarterback to play against, although he didn't have a great game. But, he did enough, and Baltimore's defense looks really good, and we're starting to see the cracks in the armor for Geno Smith. I never really bought into him. He had a great year last year, not taking anything away from him from that, but he's not, sustainable quarterback. People are catching on to Geno Smith. He'll make plays, he'll win games, but I think ultimately he's what's going to hold that team back, unfortunately. So Baltimore, easy win here. Again, they're looking really good. Tampa Bay at Houston, an absolute shootout in this game. I was watching this game a little bit, and I was thinking, Tampa Bay went up there at the end, and then there was only like 42 seconds left. I was like, yeah, there's no way Houston's going to be able to march down and score a touchdown. And I was like, yeah, I can't wait to tell Jake, yeah, dude, you got to get off that Houston train. I've been telling you, Houston ain't all that. I know, they were playing great for most of this game, but I was like, yep, Tampa Bay's going to win. But no, CJ Stroud is just like, nah, man, let me just take a hold of this game. I don't think I've seen a player that impressive. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, all those guys. But this is remarkable. Most people wouldn't be able to name a receiver on the Texans team. Tank Dell, really good player. Nico Collins, really good player. But, they aren't the stars. It's not like a rookie quarterback coming onto, a team like Aiden O'Connell coming onto the Raiders as a rookie quarterback. He's got Devontae Adams to throw the ball to. Here at Houston, you're not working with a whole lot, but he's elevating these players. Just absolutely incredible. Highly impressive. I am becoming quickly a big fan of CJ Stroud. We saw what he did to Georgia last year in the college football playoffs, But it is nuts. I mean, to think that almost literally a year ago to the day, I mean, it's off by a couple weeks, but CJ Stroud was getting rolled by Michigan, or struggling against Michigan in college football. Now he's throwing 5 touchdowns on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and winning games like this. I mean, it's just nuts. Really happy for the guy. He's such a great guy too. And I know it's not fair to compare them, but it's not a great look when you go out there and you throw 5 touchdown passes, and then Bryce Young goes out there and throws 3 interceptions to the Colts. The Colts, who had given up like 35 to New Orleans, 39 to the Browns. Their defense isn't good, but Bryce Young at home struggled immensely. I wanted to almost pick Carolina in that game. It's like, I mean, Indianapolis hasn't been great. Gardner Minshew turns the football over. Maybe they found something when they beat Houston. Just goes to show how crazy the league is. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that CJ Stroud, I mean, he actually played pretty well against the Colts a few weeks ago. He didn't win, threw for a ton of yards. I think 384 yards to be exact. Didn't win, but he played a lot better than Bryce Young. And I think those are pretty comparable. I know it's a divisional rivalry. I'm just saying, I know Bryce Young doesn't have also a ton to work with, but I mean, does he? I mean, I think it's pretty comparable. Adam Thielen's a really good piece. I think Jonathan Mingo could be pretty good. You got some other good players on that team. You got Tommy Tremble. You got Terrence Marshall, Miles Sanders. I mean, I would be chucking the ball down a bunch and letting Miles Sanders make some plays because, I mean, just a year ago, he was a really good back at Philly. So I know people are like, you can't compare the two. You can't compare them. They're on completely different teams, completely different situations. Well, I don't know about that. They seem like pretty similar situations. I mean, both have, first-year head coaches. I don't know, man. I like CJ Stroud. I mean, he looks fantastic. Bryce Young is disappointing. And then, of course, I think that's, it's pivotal. Bryce Young beat CJ Stroud head-to-head, and he's going to be hanging his hat on that forever. Whenever someone brings it up, he's got to be like, well, hey, man, I beat CJ head-to-head. Like, what else are you going to say, right? So, I mean, good thing he did, because otherwise he'd be catching a lot more heat than he already is. So, yeah, good pick to Jake. Crazy game. A good game for sure. I mean, it's not like Baker Mayfield in this game played bad. He had a couple touchdowns. Needs to get Chris Godwin more involved. I like Cade Otton. Like, I liked him last year, the tight end there. So it's good to see him getting some action. 2 touchdowns in this game. Next up, this should have been the lock of the week. Another, rookie quarterback, not highly drafted, making his first NFL start against one of the better teams in the league. So, you had, Brett Rippon, obviously not a rookie, and then you had Jaron Hall, who was a rookie. So 3 weird situations like this. Cleveland took care of business. Again, just makes Atlanta look bad. It's like, dude, how could you not take care of business against a rookie quarterback from like the 5th round? I mean, here you have Clayton Tune out of Houston University, that is. I mean, he's not a phenomenal, high prospect or anything. And sure enough, yeah, I mean, he doesn't play great, throws picks. Cleveland just takes care of business. Deshaun Watson does what needs to be done to win the game. Arizona doesn't even score a point. So, yeah. I remember coming into this year and I was, joining my Survivor League. I'm like, bro, I'm just going to pick whoever's playing Arizona every week. And then, of course, Dallas beats Arizona, eliminates me from that league, pisses me the hell off. And then here we are. I mean, Arizona's like 1-8. It's a pretty gosh darn good strategy to pick against them, I would say. So, yeah, thanks, Dallas, for blowing that easy game. Like, what in the... Ugh, that still is haunting me. I mean, the more Arizona loses, the more it eats away at me. But anyways, yes, Cleveland wins. Then you have Indianapolis at Carolina. We kind of already touched on this game. Weird game for Gardner Minshew. When he has his Minshew mania, it's when he goes nuts. Touchdowns, turnovers. This game, there was no mania to be had. I mean, he barely threw for any yards. He had a touchdown, and that was it. I mean, he won the game. It was a pretty easy win, defensive-led game. The Giants at Vegas. I picked Vegas here. Jake had the Giants, so I got that one right. By the way, Jake picked Indy, Cleveland, Houston, Baltimore. So, I mean, he had the last 4 there. I feel like whenever a head coach gets fired midseason, and this had happened for the Raiders before, let's be real, when Rich Bisaccia came in a couple years ago in 2020, I think it was, it tends to galvanize the team and they go out and go nuts the next week. Now, I was wrong with my prediction. Devontae Adams did not have a huge game at all, but they didn't need to. I mean, Daniel Jones gets hurt. Tommy DeVito comes in, and let's be real here. Tommy DeVito played pretty good. Again, yet another rookie quarterback, not highly drafted, playing pretty much making a start. I mean, Daniel Jones got hurt pretty early in this game. I know he threw 2 picks very early on, but after that, I mean, he was playing fantastic. I mean, he was very accurate, very efficient, high yards per attempt. So there might be something there. I mean, he's out of Illinois. Probably not, but I mean, he played pretty good against this, and Raiders defense that has been decent over the last few weeks. But yeah, Raiders easily win this game. Giants look horrible. Worst team in the league right now, maybe. Dallas at Philadelphia. I would say this is your best game of the week. I mean, that and Tampa and Houston, just in terms of watchability, enjoyment, entertainment. I'm glad Philadelphia won this game. I mean, I don't really have a dog in the fight or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, they just got it done. Dallas, surely you could say, maybe outplayed them, maybe should have won this game. I just think it's kind of a toss-up, All right, it's at home for Philly. I'm taking Philly. If it was at Dallas, I'd take Dallas. And I think that's how it's going to play out when they, rematch in a couple weeks here. Dak played really well. He has been playing great over the last few weeks, so good to see that. Jalen Hurts, 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. I heard some broadcaster talking about parlay, and she was like, yeah, we're going to toss Jalen Hurts 1 interception there. I was like, I know he's thrown a lot of those, but I mean, he's going to show up to this game. I don't see him throwing the pick to this game because he knows how dangerous that can be. Like, Jalen Hurts is one of those guys who's like, I remember when they beat Washington in overtime, he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, this is nothing. Yeah, I mean, this game is something definitely a little bit more to take serious. And so he knows he's got to take care of the ball a little bit more. And sure enough, he doesn't turn it over. And yeah, I think it's just some weird coaching decisions, not taking field goals. And then, of course, toward the end of that game, the sack, delay of game, they could have had it. I mean, we saw C.J. Stroud go down the field and get a touchdown in a similar situation. Dak came close by literally a few yards and just couldn't get it done. But yeah, I mean, good game. Don't think it really, says a whole lot about either team. Philadelphia is just, really good. We knew that. Buffalo at Cincinnati. Jake took Buffalo. I took Cincinnati. So happy about that. I did say a few weeks ago to write them off, Cincinnati, that is. But Joe Burrow got healthier faster than I thought he would. And he is lighting the league up. He took care of Arizona. Didn't play great against Seattle, but got it done. And then, he absolutely rolled the 49ers, and he's going nuts here against Buffalo. I mean, they were a little quiet in the second half, but they got conservative. They didn't need to do anything. Buffalo was never going to come back in this game, even though they did get the 2-point conversion there at the end, and, a touchdown could have won the game. But, yeah, I mean, Josh Allen, always good for an interception. And, man, yeah, Joe Burrow just looks good right now. I really wish he had a better start to the season because he could, be in that MVP race. I still feel like Josh Allen, as crazy as it sounds, might be more likely to win just because his production is nuts. I mean, he had another 3 touchdowns in this game, I think. No, maybe not 3. I think he had 1 passing, 1 rushing, and a 2-point conversion, a bunch of yards. So, yeah, I mean, it was very reminiscent of the playoff game last year. I think this is how the game would have gone, had it not been canceled on Monday night in January, because of the DeMar Hamlin injury. It's kind of nuts. Like, Cincinnati just owns Buffalo right now. But I would worry, it's hard to be a team 3 times in a row within a year. So if Cincinnati has to play Buffalo again in the playoffs, I'd be a little worried if I'm Cincinnati. It's like, I feel like we need to completely change personnel because it is hard to beat a team that many times constantly. I mean, Cincinnati already had this issue. They beat Kansas City 3 times in a row. Playoffs, I think it was regular season, playoffs, regular season, and then last year in the playoffs, nope, Kansas City finally gets one. I feel like that could happen again here. Then we have the Chargers at the Jets for Monday Night Football. Jake had the Jets, I had the Chargers. I thought, Zach Wilson he's not, he's a bust. Let's just say, I'm sorry. I mean, he's a good guy. He likes his MILFs, but he's a bust. And Justin Herbert, again, didn't play great, but he got the job done. Austin Eckler had a humongous garbage time touchdown for me that helps me win one of my fantasy leagues. And it's actually crazy. I had this major comeback in another one of my leagues because of the Chargers defense. And if Zach Wilson, when he fumbled the ball basically on his goal line, like if the Chargers had recovered that for a touchdown, I would have won in that league, but not the other league when then because he fumbled like on the 1 yard line. And then Austin Eckler got the touchdown. I wouldn't have won that league. So it's kind of like give and take, kind of a crazy situation. But yeah, it was a big game for me in terms of fantasy outcomes. Greg Zuerlein even almost, brought me back in another one of my leagues. So yeah, unfortunately it wasn't close enough. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's kind of how I expected the game to go. Jets have a good defense. I didn't have the balls to take Justin Herbert under his 263 yards that Prize Picks had him at. But I did have a little game on this one. I had, I think, Cameron Dicker over 1.5 field goals, Zach Wilson over 216 yards, and Breece Hall over 50 yards. 2 of those hit. Breece did not get over 50, barely, or 58, I think it was. But the other 2 hit, so I did get that paid out because I do the flex play, guys. I mean, I've looked, I've made a lot of these entries, and I have never hit 3 for 3. But the flex play, you still get paid out a little less for 2 of 3. That's what I always do, and it works out pretty nicely. So there you go. That is our Week 9 assessment. Good week, I'd say. I like Dallas and Philadelphia. I watched a lot of that game, and it was enjoyable. It was good ball. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of sloppiness. Our Week 9 start and sits went as such. Starting Josh Downs was not a great call, but sitting Cooper Kupp was. As crazy as it sounds, Kupp has just not been productive at all. On my side, starting Adam Thielen. I thought, the Colts defense we know is bad, but Bryce Young met that with an even worse badness. I mean, he was just ugly. 3 interceptions. Adam Thielen had a bunch of targets, I think, but couldn't haul all of them in. But St. Jordan Addison did help out. He was not, although there was some passing game going on in that game. I think Powell and Madison got the receiving touchdowns. Jordan Addison did not. So I guess I got a little lucky there. Now for our best bets. Jake unfortunately went 0 for 3 here on the Jets money line, the Buffalo Bills money line, and the over on the Buffalo at Cincinnati, which I really thought would hit, but they just kind of stopped scoring in that second half. Now for my best bets, the Rams +3 did not hit. I didn't like that. When I wrote that down, I thought Stafford was playing, and I just, didn't want to remove it. I still thought, the Rams are a good team. Sean McVay's a good coach, but obviously wasn't enough. I did, from the jump, I love Dallas and Philly over 46, and that one easily hit. Getting on to the college picks, I do want to say I think I am undefeated on Thursday and Friday night college football picks, dating back, you could take that, oh man, what was it? Oh my goodness, I think James Madison and Marshall, that was a Thursday one. You had Virginia Tech and Syracuse. That was a Friday one. Nebraska, Illinois. That was another one. I won on a Friday. Then last week, what was it? Oh, yeah, Boston College at Syracuse. Got that one taken care of. So far, I just have a really good success rate on Thursday and Friday nights. So I had to include one here. So stay tuned for that. Then Rutgers 18.5 with Ohio State. That one really pissed me off. Rutgers leads 9-7 going into the halftime. And then they just completely shit the bed. They do score again, but they just let Ohio State run all over them and lose by 19 points. So screw you guys. I lost that one by 1 point. Then we have Nebraska at Michigan State. This was a little bit back and forth, and ultimately Nebraska did lose this game. Unfortunately, I really had higher hopes for the Cornhuskers. Michigan State's not good, and Nebraska, they are a solid football team this year, so that was disappointing. Kansas State +4 at Texas was looking really bad early on. I think Kansas State was down like 20-0. They battled all the way back to force overtime. Probably should have won this game if they kicked the field goal instead of going for it on 4th down. That was kind of stupid. But they still covered the spread, so that was nice. Now, Virginia Tech +9.5 at Louisville. I really liked this pick, but it bit me in the ass. This one wasn't even close. Maybe we just have to accept Louisville's a really good team, and playing at home just enhances and amplifies them. I mean, they struggled, they lost Pitt. They got to be kicking themselves right now. They could be ranked inside the top 10 right now, I think, for maybe the playoffs and the AP poll if they didn't drop a boneheaded game to Pitt, right? Who's not a good team. So that's kind of crazy to me. I do think their train will come to an end here, whether it's this week with Virginia. I almost like that pick, but I almost will. You know what? Maybe we will include it. Let me sit on it for a little bit, but because I don't believe in Louisville. I saw them up close when they played Notre Dame, and yeah, I know they beat the rails off Notre Dame, but it's just like they can't keep this up. Michigan minus 32.5 with Purdue. Another one that just pissed me off, dude. It's like I can accept losing, but the way this one ended up transpiring, oh my God. All right, so Purdue gets the ball back. They're down by, I think it was 41-6, right? So they're down by a bunch. Michigan's covering. And Purdue just is like, yeah, let's just, instead of just getting out of here, bro, like we want to go home, right? Let's just go back to, West Lafayette or whatever the hell it is. They're like, nah, we're gonna actually try here. 4th and 3, Harrison Carter, whatever his name is, throws a touchdown on Michigan's best defender or defensive, whatever it was. A really good Michigan player. It's not like Michigan was even starting their backups at this point. And yeah, I mean, there you go. Purdue covers at the very end, little backdoor cover. And yeah, again, lost that one. Then USC plus 3.5, Washington. Another one, man, USC. I mean, this, as I predicted, was a really good back and forth, exciting, fun game. USC was up, then it's tied. Washington's up, then it's tied. USC, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually Washington just outpaces them and wins 52-42. But really, I mean, USC should have covered in this game. At the end there, USC should have scored again, I'd say, and then they would have covered by half. So again, just really disappointing. Oklahoma State, though, at home against Oklahoma. I should have had the balls to just take them money line, but they won the game outright, didn't even need the 6 points, so that one did come through. All right, moving on to week 10 for the NFL. We got Thursday Night Football. The Bears, another Thursday night game for the Bears. That's unusual to have 2 Thursday night games in the same season. A lot of teams get, more than one primetime games, but not, more than one Thursday or Monday nighters or Sunday nighters. But yeah, Carolina at Chicago. I'm taking Chicago here, as stupid as it sounds. I just was not impressed at all by Bryce Young's performance at Indianapolis, at home against Indianapolis. And he hasn't looked great all year. I do anticipate Justin Fields to return this week. I mean, he could have maybe even returned against New Orleans, but I think he'll be ready to go, excited to be back, and should take care of business against a not great Carolina defense here. And hey, yeah, I mean, they blew out Washington, the last time they played on Thursday night, so maybe it's just something in the air on Thursdays. Indianapolis at New England. This game's also in Germany. I almost want to take New England. Like, this is exactly the point where, New England is completely counted out of the fold. You know what? I am going to take New England. I'm going to switch it right now. I've talked myself into it. Maybe I'll get burned again just like last week. But I do think, New England's a really one of those inconsistent teams that will surprise you like every 3 weeks. They beat Buffalo and then they're dog shit. All right, now it's time for them to go off. I just think that they're going to be able to overwhelm Gardner Minshew, who's turnover prone. Maybe Mac Jones. I mean, he's got another cupcake defense he can go up against like Washington. Let's see if he can rebound and maybe try and make a claim for him not to get benched. I mean, they don't have much behind them, but his time in New England is coming to an end here. Cleveland, Jake, by the way, has Chicago and Indianapolis. Cleveland at Baltimore. Jake is taking Cleveland. I am taking Baltimore. Like we've talked about, Baltimore has been so dominant. They're at home here again. If it was in Cleveland, I'd feel maybe more inclined to take Cleveland. And I know that Baltimore beat Cleveland the last time they played, but that was because Deshaun was out. Now Deshaun is back in, so this is a pretty good game, I'd say. But I still don't believe in Deshaun Watson. I really think he's phoning it in at this point. He got paid. All he could think about. Maybe he's living with the guilt of it. I mean, maybe everyone, hates him now, so he's just emotionally unstable. Who knows? But he's not the same as he was before. I think Lamar Jackson should be able to take care of business against the Browns. Green Bay at Pittsburgh, Raccoon game. I'm taking Pittsburgh here to just keep, Is it crazy? Pittsburgh has one of the easiest freaking schedules. Like, they're going to probably make the playoffs because their schedule has been so easy breezy. They got that lucky win against Cleveland earlier in the year when Deshaun Watson was coughing the ball up like crazy. They play the Rams. They play, with half a backup quarterback. Matt Stafford goes down. They get, Will Levis making his second career start. Now they get Green Bay at home. We all know Jordan Love's going to absolutely fold against this Pittsburgh defense. I like this. I like Pittsburgh probably to cover in this game. Green Bay is just not good. And Jake says the same. San Francisco at Jacksonville. Jake likes Jacksonville this game, and I understand why. They're at home, and they've been hot. San Fran has been cold. But I like San Fran to bounce back here. Yeah, I know both teams are coming off of a bye, so I can't use my general excuse to be like, oh, yeah, they're coming off of a bye. They've had plenty of time to prepare. I just think defensive teams are better coming off of byes than offensive ones. And San Fran, don't, kid yourself. They are a defensive team. I think they will be able to come into this game very prepared and take care of Jacksonville. This should be one of the best games of the weekend. I think Brock Purdy bounces back, has a good game. Trevor Lawrence, I think, will turn the ball over, come back down to earth a little bit. Although, who knows? Maybe this is the day Trevor Lawrence makes a statement in the MVP conversation. It's very possible. Tough time choosing this game, but I'm going to go with San Fran here. New Orleans at Minnesota. Jake likes Minnesota, but I am going to take New Orleans. I love Josh Dobbs. I love the story, but no, New Orleans is heating up. They have a really good defense. I do know. I mean, Josh Dobbs, as much, as great a performance that was. I mean, he wasn't great in Arizona over the last, 8 weeks. He wasn't great. He's going to turn the ball over against a good New Orleans defense. I know it's in Minnesota, but out of all home field advantages, that one isn't all that strong. So I'm taking New Orleans. Jake likes Minnesota. Houston at Cincinnati. Of course, Jake is taking Houston, as he rightfully should. I mean, if he takes them every week, he's taking them every week. So he's got to take them even when they're, severely outmatched and underdogs in this game at Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati here. It's a great story, again, with C.J. Stroud. But, he's a rookie quarterback. At the end of the day, he is a rookie quarterback, and he will have ebbs and flows. He went out through 5 touchdowns. I guarantee you he doesn't do that again. I guarantee he doesn't do that at all again this season. He may not do that until the next 3 years. I doubt he'll have another 5 touchdown game, maybe until his 3rd year in the league. And even at that, 5 touchdown games are hard to come by. I think that was the first one of the year, actually. 5 passing touchdowns. We've had a lot of 4 burgers, but 5, that's up to a whole new level. So, good for him. Like I said, I like him. But, Cincinnati's defense is really good. So, I like Cincinnati here for sure. Tennessee at Tampa Bay. Tough game for sure. Tennessee's had a little more time to prepare. But I think Tampa Bay is just due for a rebound. They lost a tight one to Buffalo. They lost a tight one to Houston. They're at home now. They're bound for a rebound. So, I like them against Tennessee. And yeah, I think Will Levis will struggle again. Tampa Bay's defense is, I know CJ Stroud lit up, but it's been solid. It's been all right. Held Josh Allen down pretty good, picked off Josh Allen. I just don't see Will Levis having a ton of success in this game. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball all that well either. So I like Tampa. Detroit at the Chargers, another good game. Maybe we're finally getting into those matchups I've been talking about. I like Detroit here. Jake does too. By the way, Jake likes Tampa as well. This is another tough one for me to pick. Just the home field advantage for the Chargers doesn't mean jack squat. Truly, it really doesn't. So this might as well be a neutral field game. I bet there will be a lot of Lions fans here, though. Detroit's coming off of a bye, having extra time to prepare. We all know the Chargers, they beat the Bears, they beat the Jets. Those aren't great teams. I think they're going to struggle here against a pretty good Detroit team. And I just think the Lions are going to be able to roll over them. They're going to be able to run the ball. Jared Goff, that play action is going to get going, and he should have, a couple passing touchdowns, maybe even 3 in this game. Atlanta at Arizona. I've bet on Atlanta a lot this year and been burned. And I'm going to bet on them again for some stupid reason. Again, I like Tyler Heineke. Atlanta has a good defense. I know they've gotten lit up a little bit against backup quarterbacks, but, they do have a good defense. Kyler Murray, making his first start after, almost a year now. So I just think he'll be a little rusty. It'll be hard for him to get back into it right away against, kind of a tough defense to start off again. So as much as I could see Arizona winning this game, I am going to take Atlanta to go into Arizona and win, but I don't feel great about that. Like, I could totally see Kyler Murray just being like, I miss football so much, and just run all over the place and go nuts. Giants at Dallas. Great. Dallas will win at home. Giants look absolutely horrible, but it will be curious. It'll be nice to see, I think, Tommy DeVito play, and maybe he'll have another decent game. Washington at Seattle. Jake, by the way, like Dallas, like Atlanta, but he likes Washington here. Very odd. Going all the way up to Seattle, this is kind of a weird pick for me. Looking at it for Jake here. Seattle, no, we've talked about home field advantage. Seattle home field advantage is serious. It's something very scary. And their defense, even though it got lit up against the Ravens, against NFC teams and even the Browns, I mean, they have been, locked down. I think they take care of business here. This is probably one of those games Sam Howell has is a rough outing. Of course, he's shown flashes. He goes out there, throws 4 interceptions against the Bills. Then he has 4 touchdowns against the Eagles. And then where was that bad game that he had recently? Oh, against the Giants. Yeah, he does nothing against the Giants. So I like Seattle here to bounce back against, a not great Washington defense. Then we have the Jets at Vegas. So Vegas gets another dosage of New York action. I just like Vegas here. I could totally see the Jets winning this game because they have a good defense. Vegas probably comes down to earth a little bit here. They have their rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. I just think, at home they have enough to get it done. But this is a really bad primetime game yet again. Yeah, what the hell, man? Like, why are the Jets on Sunday Night Football? Like, why are they on primetime back-to-back? I hate watching Zach Wilson. I know it was going to be Aaron Rodgers, but NFL, dude, make some changes. Like, you can do that. Remember, you could flex things. You could flex games. You can move shit around. So why don't you replace this game with Detroit at Chargers? San Fran at Jacksonville. There's so many other good games in here. Where's the other one? I think even Washington at Seattle would be better. Cleveland at Baltimore. This is ridiculous. I mean, we're watching 2 shitty quarterbacks at the end of the day. I'm sorry, Aiden O'Connell. Sorry, Zach Wilson. But truly. Monday Night Football is a little bit better. I'm more interested in this one. But again, Buffalo gets back-to-back primetime games? Really? Denver at Buffalo. I'm taking Buffalo. Jake's taking Buffalo. Denver coming off of a bye. I think they play a little bit better in this game. I think this will be a good game, actually. I think this will be a tight one. I do think, Buffalo absolutely needs this game. They can't afford to fall to 500, even though the Dolphins are struggling. The Dolphins, they have a clear lead in that division right now. And, the next time they get Buffalo, it'll be at home. So, yeah, Buffalo needs this game desperately, and I think they get it. And, yeah, buys are Kansas City, Philadelphia, Miami, and the Rams. So, yeah, all the good teams, like a lot of good teams get buys this week. Kind of curious about that. Week 10, start and sit. Jake wants to start Evan Ingram and Taysom Hill. Some big tight end action there, but he wants to sit Zach Moss and Calvin Ridley. I like seeing Zach Moss. It does seem like his time to shine is coming to a close. He did not have a great week last week in terms of production. And yeah, Taysom Hill has just been going nuts. Although, he is very inconsistent. Like, they will use him up for a couple weeks and then just, leave him on a shelf for the next 4 weeks. But I do like that. I'm actually trying to pick him up in one of my leagues. Now, I'm going to just completely counter Jake here. I want to start Calvin Ridley. San Fran secondary, as we saw over the last couple of games, Joe Burrow ate him up, Kirk Cousins ate him up. I think Calvin Ridley will have opportunities in this game, and I think Trevor Lawrence will make that happen. Because if I'm San Fran, we know Christian Kirk is the primary target, so we're going to take care of him, try and take him out of the game. Calvin Ridley opens up opportunities for him, so I actually like to start him in this game, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. A little head-to-head there between Jake and I. I also like to start Drake London if he's healthy. He was out this last week, but we know Arizona's defense is not great, and Drake London has been playing pretty good. He's been getting production. Now he's got a better quarterback throwing him the ball, so I'm going to take Drake London. And I'm sitting Gus Edwards. He's had, some really good weeks strung together, lots of touchdowns, but Cleveland's defense is pretty good. I think they lock it down for Gus Edwards. They're not going to lose. If they're losing this game, it's going to be because Lamar Jackson beats them through the air, throwing the Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. It's not going to be because they let Gus the Bus run through them. I guarantee you of that. Now, our best bets. Jake likes Minnesota money line and Jacksonville money line. I don't like either of those, but there's that. I do like Tampa Bay money line. He likes Houston plus 6.5. Actually, yeah, that's a lot of points, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm staying away from Houston. That's his thing. Pretty good bet. Cleveland plus 6 also feels like a lot. Cleveland could easily win this game, so that feels like a lot to me. I can get behind that. Now, for me, I like Vegas plus 2 at home against the Jets. I like Atlanta and the spread, which is a pick'em game, right now, at Arizona. Again, I could see Arizona winning this game, but I'm just going to err on the side of, Kyler Murray being rusty. I like New Orleans minus 2.5 at Minnesota a lot, though. Like, that would be one of my favorites for the week. In terms of college, this is my Friday night pick. This one, I kind of had to force this one out of me, so my streak might come to an end. Wyoming plus 4.5 or plus 4 at Nevada, Las Vegas. Both having really good seasons, but Wyoming beat Fresno State, whereas Fresno State beat Nevada. So that's my rationale. That's all I got for you. Boston College plus 1.5 at home against Virginia Tech, who I just bet on to cover against Louisville. They let me down, so now I'm willing to bet against them. Who, I've bet on Boston College, and they've come through for me, so I like them here. And this line opened up, I think, at like 4.5 and got bet down immediately to 1.5 or something. So, yeah, a lot of people do like that. I'm also going to take Michigan 4.5 at Penn State. I just don't think Penn State's very good. They struggled against Indiana. They looked horrendous against Ohio State. And we know Ohio State's one of the best teams in the nation, but I just don't believe Penn State is going to be able to get anything going offensively here. And Michigan is just a machine. I mean, they'll run the ball. They'll pound you. J.J. McCarthy will run around, make plays. I really do like J.J. McCarthy. As much as I'm supposed to hate Michigan as a Notre Dame grad, I do kind of like him. I do kind of like him to win it all this year. Then we have Washington at home, minus 9.5 against Utah. Utah is another team that I like, just kind of in spirit. But no, at home, yeah, maybe more so. Washington, though, at home, I think just should be able to go nuts on them, similarly to how Oregon went nuts on them a couple weeks ago. West Virginia plus 13 at Oklahoma. Oklahoma struggling the last few weeks. You could say they're going to bounce back here. And I think they will. I think they win this game, but West Virginia is really good too, and that's a lot of points to give to them. They just blew out BYU. I think they're a really good team. This is a big game for them. Oklahoma at this point, I mean, what are they playing for? I mean, they're pretty much out of the Big 12 championship. They're definitely out of the playoffs. Their season is basically done for all intensive purposes. Maybe they'll get into the Camping World Bowl like, Notre Dame will or some shit like that. What are they calling it? The Pop-Tart Bowl now? That'd be a cool matchup, Notre Dame and Oklahoma. I'm hoping for Oklahoma, LSU, Notre Dame, LSU, Notre Dame, Arizona, or Notre Dame, Oklahoma. I'd like any of those matchups for the bowl game. Anyways, that's aside. USC plus 15 at Oregon. I'm going to take them again. Try and get this one. That's just a lot of points. You look at the Pac-12, and there's 5 really strong. 6. Oregon State, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, USC, Cal, UCLA is the one, not Cal. I don't think you can give 15 points to any of those teams in any matchup, no matter where it is. That's just a lot of points. I like USC to come into Oregon and try and they need a win. They've been really struggling lately. They're a couple plays away from having a 4-game losing streak. Notre Dame, Utah, Cal, Washington. So, yeah, they're in a tough spot right now. Fresno State minus 1 at San Jose State. Little group of 5 action here for you. Just like Fresno State, they're better. They have a way better record than San Jose State. San Jose State burned me a couple weeks ago against Utah State, but I like Fresno here to cover. I like Iowa also minus 1. So some tighter windows here in this one. At home against Rutgers. Iowa coming off of a bye. Rutgers feeling deflated after they kind of just let Ohio State slip through their hands. So I like Iowa to just absolutely shut this down. The over-under line on this is 28.5. That is just gaunt. That is holy crap. I don't know if like I could rationally bet that, although I'm sure it'll hit. I'm sure this will be like a 13-6 game. That's what it looks like to me. Minnesota +1 at Purdue. I don't understand this line. Again, maybe I'm stupid. I know Minnesota lost to Illinois, who lost to Purdue. I get that, the circle of the snake, but I just think Minnesota at this point in the season is a much better team. Purdue is just on a downwards trajectory. Plus, they're still going to be, licking their wounds from Michigan. It's kind of like San Francisco in the NFL. Teams that play San Francisco, the immediate next week are almost always going to lose. I know, what was that? I think Dallas broke that trend when they beat the Chargers, but you think back to it, I think, the Bengals beat San Fran, so it doesn't count. And Cleveland beat them. But traditionally, if you lose to San Fran, or in this case, Michigan's the comparison, you're still going to be hurting for a little bit physically. So I just think Purdue, they're going to come out kind of limp dog, limp fish, and lose to Minnesota, who for whatever reason is an underdog in this game. So there you guys have it. Really miss my buddy today. Kind of talking to myself, but you know what? I hope you enjoyed. Nonetheless, lots of good stuff this week for sure. Big loss for Notre Dame that really sucked. But I'll be at the game next week against Wake Forest. Revenge game for Sam Hartman. And should be good stuff. Thank you guys as always for listening, and we'll see you maybe later on the week for some shorts.